Welcome to Vantage Point Podcast, a podcast brought to you by NWR Communications and 92 Studio. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.
G'day and welcome to the latest episode. We're joined by Lakes Blue Energy, which is relisted on the ASX under the ticker LKO after some time in the abyss. But it's a great time to be relisting, focused on East Coast gas and the shortages as such. We hope you enjoy.
Guys, it's been a journey to get back on the boards. Congratulations to restart listing today. We've obviously got Richard and Tim, CEO, COO, 22 plus years, 8 years with Lakes. As I said at the top, recommenced trading on the ASX today under the ticker LKO to raising $6.5 million. Sort of gives you a market cap of around 50 with just under $10 million cash. Why now? Why is the right time?
Well, the reason it's the right time is because for the first time in a long time, the world has gone with us. The politics have changed, the gas market's changed, the energy policy's changed, and we think we're trying to work this out today. We think we're the first conventional exploration well in Victoria since the moratorium was listed.
And so when was that?
2023.
21.
21.
Yeah. 22 the regs came out.
It was 5 years. Yeah.
So we're the first, we think, conventional gas exploration well, which we're pretty proud of.
Yep.
It has been a challenging process. To be fair, whenever you do something for the first time, it's challenging for everyone, and the government played their part. But we're here now. This is the fifth well, in this prospect.
So it's Wombat 5, yeah?
Wombat 5.
Yep.
So, we have a very good idea of what's there. So between that and, for example, articles like yesterday in The Australian where they pointed out that Longford had gone down and gas peaked at about $20 on the spot market.
Sure.
That's pretty helpful.
And so when you were last drilling, I think I heard, we were chatting yesterday, what were gas prices? Sort of 4 or 5?
Around the $4.50 mark. So we'd made an agreement with Dow Chemicals and Simplot that we would actually sell gas at below the market price back there in 2012 to get things going, and we'd agreed on about a $5.50 price out of Wombat Gas, whereas now it's probably $15.50.
It's very much a different world, and the shortage is there. And in terms of, and we'll get into a bit more specifics, but the cost in terms of making it worthwhile. Obviously, everything's going to be worthwhile at $14 or $15. But what are we talking? $4 or $5 or $2 or $3 or?
Hopefully around the lower mark.
Yeah.
We bit about onshore gas. It's much cheaper to extract than offshore gas. It's a tenth of the cost. We're believing if the well's successful as we think it will be, we'd need maybe a dozen to sort of 15 wells. The plant and the pipeline, you're probably looking around a couple $100 million of total capex to bring a few $1 million worth of gas to market. So there's a touch wood. It all comes in as we expect it to be, and the modelling showing, and we'll have a very profitable exercise there.
Yeah. And so, obviously, it's been a process to get back on the boards. People have been locked up in terms of shares not trading and whatnot, so liquidity's recommenced, which is great. What should we expect in terms of news flow? Is it going to, is drilling months away, or how does that sort of look for investors?
No, so we should, subject to weather, is the only variable left. We should be drilling on the 31st of July.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty quick.
Earthworks have started. The rig is due to be mobilised on the 15th of July. So 31st we should be spudding, as they say.
Yep.
And within a month we should have a very good idea of what's down there. Within 2 months we'll have a very, very good idea of what's down there.
And if we sort of look at more from a technical aspect, and with all due respect, I'll look at Tim.
Perfectly fine with me.
You've drilled obviously 4 wells to date in terms of Wombat 1, 2, 3, 4. What sort of gives you the confidence, or obviously you can never be 100% sure until you're down there, but what gives you the confidence that this well will produce what is required, and what is that's required?
So we know that the best gas in the field is at the top of the Strzelecki, and in all 4 of the other wells they've all flowed gas from that at a much higher rate than the deeper, more compacted formation.
Yep.
And so with Wombat 5 will be a horizontal well through the top of the Strzelecki, so we'll get the entire 1,500 metre length of the well within that top 100 metres where the best gas is.
Yep.
So all the modelling is showing that it should clearly be a commercial result as long as we can get that 1,500 metres of hole drilled. We've obviously, the engineering and everything for the well design has been to ensure that we do get the hole drilled and get the completion in there so we can test the entire length of the well. And as I said, the modelling's showing that the best case, so the mid case, so is around 10 million cubic feet a day, a high of 15 or so, and even the low case around 1.5 million a day, still commercial for an onshore well with those sort of costs. As I said, just requires more wells to actually get the whole resource to market.
And just from a layman's perspective, explain what that means in terms of the significance of the whole market and the whole demand. If you can get these results, is that 1% of demand, or what does that look like in terms of the East Coast?
So we're focusing on trying to get 10% of Victoria's needs for the next 20 years out of this. Firstly, the Wombat Field, and then the Triffin Gangel Field, which lies directly to the north. SO's dropping off at a significant, bass rates dropping off at a significant rate each year, and so having 10% come in will be a fairly significant change for the state. It's not a game changer. We're not introducing a new bass rate just yet, but at least it's showing that onshore works. There's much more potential onshore as well, so hopefully that'll all wake everyone up to the fact that Victoria does have a lot of gas resource there that hasn't been developed yet, and then that can obviously help relieve the decline from bass rate.
And maybe even more from a personal perspective, what does it mean to get to back to this point? We're saying at the start of this, 22 years is I would swear, but I won't. Is a very long time. Why? And maybe, and I'm sure people have called you crazy, but why have you stuck with it?
So when I started with the lakes back in 2003, and within 6 months we drilled Wombat 1, made the big discovery. Wombat 2 we followed up pretty closely after that, and then sort of Wombat 3 was the first well that after the older people retired, I was left to sort of engineer and design and make happen myself, and we got a much better flow there. Unfortunately, there's one or two issues that prevented us from getting the commercial rate then. But I've always believed that Wombat had a commercial volume of gas and we would be able to get it into commerciality at some stage. And so whether stubbornness or whatever, it was not to let someone else come in and get all the glory from it. But also never did we imagine that the moratorium would be in place for 12 years and that you'd be sitting here all this time later still trying to get it done. Yes. It's been a journey, that's for sure.
And from a lean machine in terms of the team, there's not much of a team, right? You've just run it on the smell of an oil rag to date, just to get it through. You've sold off a couple of the properties, from my understanding, just to continue to fund and get through. What's the sort of hope? Like again, you can't sort of forecast success and that sort of stuff, but what does this look like commercially? Can you sort of give us a band in terms of sort of size and that sort of stuff? I'm saying, Richard.
So
grinning here.
I am grinning because it's hard. It's hard to answer that. It's not hard in the sense if we can put numbers on tables and estimate, but we have. And I think one of the important points is we have multiple assets. We have the Portland Energy Project in Victoria as well. We've got stuff in PNG. Now those two assets alone are Bass Strait equivalent-esque type comparables. Now, obviously, they're not the focus right now, but we do own them, and we do plan to develop them. So, look, our view is we should be supplying 10% of Australia's gas at some point. That's entirely plausible.
In short, that's a much bigger company, right?
It's a much bigger
$50 million.
You'll be putting zeros on it.
And in terms of the cost to drill, obviously this is we talked last week that there's other different projects out there that this is not going to be touch wood wherever that this is success, but if it's not, you'll obviously understand more around the geology and whatnot and decide what's the next step. But what in terms of CO2 and these different things that you just haven't had the ability to sort of go into be funded and be liquid and the rest of it, what's a CO2 project look like?
So the CO2 project is really an interesting one. Like, we drilled the well, looking for natural gas, and ended up with CO2, which just down the road from where we drilled there was a well called Caroline, which had supplied CO2 for 50 years. Now most people probably don't realise that the CO2 you use in hospitals and in food and all that sort of thing, and in industry is 99.9% pure, and it's actually quite expensive. And it is in short supply. So whilst we live in a world where everyone's trying to capture carbon and stick it down a hole for legitimate reasons, you can't just use that in healthcare. So there is a duopoly that operates in Australia. We're currently importing CO2 from Singapore. During COVID, we do know that New Zealand brewers were coming to Australia looking for CO2 in case New Zealand ran out of beer.
As I mentioned, that is a critical.
That is a
critical
Can't have a beer without
requirement.
Yeah.
more important than vaccines. So it's so the opportunity has been there, and again, it's like the point we referred to before. CO2 is now so expensive; it has got to the point that people have approached us, and we've had one approach through ourselves, and Vintage, our joint venture partner, have approached as well. And the economics are lining up, and we think, that we can get a plant built there and be selling CO2 to the market probably 2027.
Yeah. And in terms of just stepping back into sort of listed life and news flow, what is that? How does that sort of look over the next 3 months? Obviously, it's going to gear up. Early works have started. Spudding, sort of the end of this month. It's probably a discussion to be had with your investor relations team. But in terms of from a news flow, I'm assuming there'll be daily reports coming through in terms of progress. So this is not going to be a company or a stock that is quiet.
They're not going to hide it away.
Yeah.
No, and I think for the foreseeable future, there's obviously going to be some announcements in the coming weeks up to drilling.
Yep.
On the progress where we're up to. During drilling, we will do daily releases, so everyone is fully informed. And then up into testing, there'll be announcements about that as well. Somewhere at the back end of that, we will also sort of talk to the market about our strategy is going to be for the other assets.
Yep.
And how we're going to develop those, and obviously dependent how successful the well is.
Yep.
There'll obviously be announcements around how we intend to develop it.
Yep.
The joint venture parties, or we may or may not be talking to, and the funders that have approached us. So between now and the end of the year, I'll be expecting pretty frequent and reasonably important news flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then next year for us is very, very exciting. So we can only speculate what that's going to look like now, but we'll know a lot more in 2 months' time.
Exactly. And just in terms of these other different assets, can I just ask a question around, why, and this might be a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway, why haven't you developed them? Why wait? Is it just because Wombat's obviously a no-brainer in terms of, if it's successful, but you haven't had access to it. Why haven't you pursued the others in the background?
Well, so a lot of them in Victoria, so we haven't been able to.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
I told you it was a silly question.
The CO2 one, we have been trying to further. We drilled the well, made a big discovery. It's the most successful well that Lakes has ever drilled. It just happened to be CO2, 94% CO2. But unfortunately, we're at a time when the big gas companies want to be seen to be taking waste gas and purifying that rather than dealing with new gas, which is actually natural gas. This is the natural CO2 that comes from volcanic activity that has passed through Victoria and South Australia. And so it's only just recently, with the prices getting so out of control and the main suppliers actually cutting back their major users, the amount of gas that they've been able to provide them. So companies just haven't been able to do their normal process. And so now they're starting to look around for other alternatives, and it just happened fruitiously that the Maison Engineering came along at a time where they build gas plants around the world, and they can see the opportunity here to get in and disrupt the market a little bit and sort of break up that duopoly. And so they're the ones doing the feasibility study at the moment, and which is all looking very positive. And so hopefully we'll have something to announce on that in the next month or so. Yep. And then if they likely will commit to building the plant and everything, that we can, as Richard said, hopefully get gas into the market by the end of next year or early 27. And then we had New Guinea, which also we had a good technical collaboration agreement with Total Energies there. And they did a very detailed study and liked, it was still very positive, and they identified that there was a very large recoverable resource there, but it just wasn't big enough to compete in their global exploration strategy, because they're having very big success over in Namibia, and so most of their offshore money's going there. And so they've unfortunately parked the study on the shelf, and they're big enough and ugly enough they can come back in 20 years' time and pick it up again. And so we're obviously shopping it around again now to other interested parties. And we have got a very good body of work there that Total did, confirming what we'd always thought. Just need someone with deep pockets to drill an expensive offshore well.
Correct.
which Wombat may give us the ability to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Comes in, so.
Yep. And in terms of the tailwinds, like we spoke about them right at the start, but can we just zero in a little bit more there, just around, I'm assuming this is, I haven't been around as long as you guys, with all due respect, but there probably hasn't been a better setup than this.
Well, the gas price has never been higher. The demand's never been greater. The lack of supply has never been, more evident. And I think the governments and the population are just starting to wake up to how crucial gas is for everything. And if we can't build any more coal plants, we're not even allowed to talk about nuclear.
Yeah,
gas is the only alternative because renewables can't carry the load. We don't have the topography here to have more hydro than what we've really already got. So at least for the foreseeable future, gas is the swing producer, and it's only going to get more in demand.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Richard?
And I think, just going back to the previous question you asked as well, that view has played into how we've run the business.
Yeah.
Right. And we have tried to be reasonably strategic. We sold, our share on 169 because we thought that was going to be very difficult to drill. There's all sorts of interest they've got to deal with down there and royalties they've got to pay. So we traded that for cash and a royalty. And they're still waiting to get approval. So I think, it's not that we haven't done anything. It's we tried to pick those opportunities that we know we could afford.
Yeah.
We're not going to go spend $35 million drilling a well in Papua New Guinea.
Yep.
That just wouldn't have flown as a fundraise.
Yep.
And there's a lot of history we've had to deal with them. And we've got 12,000 shareholders. And managing them alone actually costs about $500,000 a year. So, it's not as simple as just hoping
sitting
you can make
on your
it
hands.
work.
Yeah.
And I, sort of going back to the very original question, that's why we're sitting here today.
Yeah.
The world has sort of come to us. We've kept the best assets that we had.
Yeah.
And we've got a strategy around paying the bills and all that sort of stuff, and a strategy around developing the company makers, and that's what Wombat 5 is the first of.
And if we, I want to get you guys back, touch wood, in 3 or 4 months' time for a chapter 2 of this one. But what excites you the most, for the next couple of months? Like obviously success, but
building the well and seeing that flare.
Yeah. But just in terms of like the build up, it must be exciting.
This will be the first well we've drilled in Victoria since 2013.
Yeah.
And the first major well since 2012. And so, for an exploration company, it's tough if you can't drill wells.
It's pretty boring. Just a lot of desktop.
A lot of corporate stuff and banging heads against walls and dealing with bureaucracy. But that's
all part of it. That's
just makes it more worthwhile when we finally get that success. And
What are your thoughts, Richard?
Just proving that we were right.
Yeah. Having seen you guys present yesterday and just the sort of point blank and I will swear, no bullshit approach. You've obviously been there's no point in terms of trying to spin anything. Like the results will be what the results will be. And you've had your troubles and gotten across them in terms of your access and licensing and all the rest of it. So touch wood, that's behind you. But it's great to see the stock trading, and we wish you all the best in terms of success with drilling to come. So. Bring it on. Drill, baby, drill.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone wins out of its discovery.
No, exactly.
There's no losers. So.
Maybe.
Yeah. Touch wood. Awesome. Well done, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, Tom.